This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm the host, Phil McKinney. We are so glad you are back here again with us with another episode. This show is going to be a little controversial, particularly if you are a consultant, and particularly an innovation consultant. Because what I'm going to talk about is my opinions. These are my opinions, my view of innovation consultants. So let's not delay. Let's just go ahead and jump right in. So let's define what a consultant is. A consultant is somebody who gives professional expert advice. It's somebody who's got some form of expertise that they are going to share. They're getting paid to share it with a client. Now, I started my career early on as a consultant. I was a consultant with a small company that then got acquired by Computer Sciences Corporation. So the CSC used to be one of the big six consulting houses, did a lot of IT outsourcing. It was the company that invented business process reengineering, the whole concept behind it. I was working in the industry verticals, specifically telecom, because my background at that time was heavily wireless, heavily mobile. And so that was the work that I did. I was a consultant. I had expertise. People would pay CSC to get my time to come in and share that expertise with them. And a lot of my expertise was in building out new mobile networks. So I did the very first of the GSMs in Europe, which would be Monosmon, which is now Vodafone. I did MTN South Africa. I did Sapura in Malaysia. Led the effort at OmniPoint, which was the first GSM network in the United States, and OmniPoint became T-Mobile here in the United States. So that was my expertise. People paid money to get expert access to me and access to to my team, who also had similar backgrounds and similar kinds of experiences. But what about professional expert advice? What do we mean by professional expert advice? In my case, I had very deep expertise in the mobile space. I had done it many times. The company that I was with prior to it being acquired by CSC, that company had actually done the 1984 field trial for AT&T in Chicago. Market one mobile network in the world, the very first cellular network, and that was the test market for AT&T when they first tried doing cellular network. So, and this is, the true cellular network, not wireless phones or radio phones as they used to be called back in the day. True cellular phones, multiple cell towers, automatic handoffs, all of those kinds of things. So that's what professional expertise is all about. Now, the topic for today is not about are consultants good or bad. And look, we've all had our own experiences with consultants, right? We've hired them. Some of them have worked out. Some of them have not worked out. But you hire consultants, one, because you need the resources, or you lack an expertise. You lack familiarity in the area. It's a new area. Your team, you don't have anybody in your team that has experience, so you're bringing a consultant in to help kind of get you started in a new area. This effort is becoming extremely popular with innovation. I get calls all the time for recommendations of consultants who can come in and help organizations around specifically their innovation efforts. And as I look through it and I look at the consultants that are out there and I've talked with consultants, I have a pretty negative opinion. My belief is that 80% of innovation consultants are not worth the money. Now I'm going to let that sit there for a second If you're an innovation consultant, you're probably jumping up out of your seat, throwing your phone, you're yelling at me. But based on the consultants that I've seen out there, 80% of innovation consultants are not worth the money. Now, why am I saying that? Well, why I'm saying that is it's about professional expertise. You don't get expertise from reading a book and then now all of a sudden you are an expert. You don't read how to drive a car and then you go out and you become a driving instructor. No, you have driven a vehicle, then you teach others how to do it. The same applies to innovation. There are loads of innovation consultants that are out there that have never done it. They've never done it. So, what I'm going to share with you are the 4 questions you should ask before hiring an innovation consultant. You should ask all 4 of these questions. You should get into the details for each of these questions. So, we're going to do one right out of the gate here. This is probably the big one that I focus in on whenever I'm talking to or evaluating consultants for others. I get called all the time by corporations to say, hey, can you recommend an innovation consultant? This is the first question. Is this innovation consultant a proven innovator? Just as you can't teach someone else how to drive a car if you have not actually driven a car. Same applies to innovation. So what is it I mean by this? Has the consultant led an innovation for organizations known for innovation success? Have they been a chief innovation officer someplace? Have they led innovation teams that have actually delivered, not just set up processes, but who've actually done it? Is this person credited for creating an innovation that had major market success? Have they done great products or new services? Have they gotten some form of credit for the work they've done? Have they been, you know, have they done something that is market moving? That's what you want. That's the expertise, you want to bring. And the third is recognized by industry for innovation leadership. Have they been written about? Have they gotten credit in publications? Have they received awards? Have the products or services that they led, have they received awards? Do they have a technical Emmy to their credit? Do they have best product of the year for an industry? These are the 3 things that you need to ask your consultants. And if they are not true innovators, don't stop. This is it. If they don't clear this bar, then you can stop the video now and go on. Because if they can't do this, if they can't answer this, if they haven't led an innovation effort, not just an innovation effort on their own, where I innovated creating an innovation consulting firm, doesn't count. Have they led innovation at a major product company? Were they, doing something really in a leadership role at Apple or at some new mobile app or autonomous vehicle company, whatever it is. The recognized by industry for innovation leadership is an important one. There's a lot of work that's done to try to identify the most creative, the most innovative, whatever, right? Now, many people say, well, Phil, you're a consultant. I'm not really a consultant. Any money that I get from any little bit of consulting work I do, I donate to charity. It's not a money maker for me. I am out of the professional consulting business. I help companies, organizations like the U.S. Marine Corps, etc. Any money the U.S. Marine Corps pays me, and funny enough, they have to pay me. I try to decline payment, doesn't work very well. But any money I receive goes to the charities, goes to Hacking Autism, or goes to the school we're constructing in Rwanda. I don't take any of that money for any of my personal means. But I've led innovation efforts at HP. I've done award-winning products. I've got a long list of those. I've 3 times been named to Fast Company, I've been one of the 50 most innovative 3 years in a row. The last 3 years I was at HP. And I'm not bragging. That's not the purpose here. There are a lot of really great people out there that can check all 3 of these boxes off. Those are the people that you want to hire as your consultants if you are looking for consultants in the innovation space. If they cannot check these three boxes, do not pass go. If you are a consultant and you can't check these three boxes, what are you selling? What is your professional expertise that qualifies you to be an innovation consultant? There's a lot of really bad innovation consultants. There's a lot of activities going out there that's actually destroying the reputation of the innovation consultant space. If you can't check these three boxes, go find something else to do. Because as far as I'm concerned, you're trying to teach someone how to drive a car when you've never driven a car yourself. So that is only question one. We've got three more questions that you should ask any innovation consultant before you hire them. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back after this quick break. Welcome back. We are discussing today the whole concept behind innovation consultants. There are a lot of consultants out there. There are a lot of people hanging up a shingle claiming they are an innovation consultant. In reality, most of them, in my opinion, 80% of them are not worth the money. Why? Because they don't have the background. They don't have the expertise. They haven't done it. The analogy that I'm using on today's show is they're out there trying to teach people how to drive a car when they've never driven a car themselves. So let's continue on. What I'm sharing with you are the 4 questions you should ask an innovation consultant before you hire them. We've already covered question number 1. What is question number 2? Who else have they been hired by? So assuming that you can get past the first question, they've got some expertise, they've got some reputation, they've been successful someplace where they've actually have led innovation, done innovation, created some form of award-winning products and services. They've done something. Who else have they been hired by? And that the reputation of those that are clients that have hired these innovation consultants will lend some credibility. But what do I really mean by this? What I mean by this is they've been hired by others who are known for their innovation efforts, right? If you're an innovation consultant and you've been hired, by IDEO, okay, that's serious. You've got endorsed by somebody, IDEO, very well known in Silicon Valley as being innovators. A lot of leading companies in the Valley all use IDEO. IDEO was involved in the original 1984 Mac development. That's a big one, right? Who else have they been hired? Because if you've been hired by, or you've hired a consultant that's been hired by somebody that's got a reputation of being very innovative and very creative, and they still felt they needed to go out and hire this consultant, that's a big positive check mark. If they haven't been hired by anybody that has any form of reputation for consultant, that's not always a negative, right? Because not every consultant can go bag, getting an innovation consulting gig at an IDEO or a DECA Research or some other type of organization, right? But secondarily, have they completed several projects for each client? There's a lot of consultants that go in, they do one project, and that's it. The one measurement for success for consultants is that client has brought them back multiple times. Not one really long engagement with multiple contracts, but truly different contracts. They went in, did some work, they went away for 6 months or a year, then they got brought back to do more work, they went away for that tells you that they're doing great work because the client is bringing the same expertise back. They want that expertise because of the success that they had in the last engagement. They want them in the new engagement. So that's a great example of another level of endorsement. The company reputation that the consultant's being hired by, and the fact that the clients have multiple engagements with them. And the last one, and this one is an interesting one, which is, can you call all the clients they mention in the pitch or proposal? I can't tell you how many consulting proposals I get where they give you a scenario of a successful project, but then the client name is confidential. They can't tell you the client, or it's a representative, right? And I make it clear when people are submitting pitches or proposals to me that if you're going to use a client as a reference, you must be able to name it, and I must be able to call them. Otherwise, don't even put them in the pitch. I don't want to see them. I'm not going to read them. And in fact, if you try to persuade me on work that you've done for somebody, but you can't tell me their name, that actually will be a negative mark against any looking at a consultant. And that's what I apply to all consultants, not just innovation consultants, but all consultants, right? Because if someone's going to reference, say, hey, I did this great work. Well, who did you do it for? And let me call them. Let me just talk to them to see what their opinion of the work that you did, right? It's a fair request when hiring any outside resource or expertise, right? So again, when you're hiring an innovation consultant, have they been hired by others who are known for their innovation efforts? Have they been hired as an innovation consultant to 3M, Mayo Clinic, IDEO, organizations well known for having a high level of focus on innovation and a high level of expectation within their organization? Because if they've been hired by one of those organizations, then they've already met kind of a bar, right? Because that other entity has already done some form of checking. However, do not hire somebody just because they've done work for IDEO and they've said they've done work for IDEO. This gets into a little bit of borrowing credibility. If you go back, you can listen to some of my past shows where we talk about the ethics and innovation. The people say, well, I've got so-and-so on my board of directors. Oh, well, if that person's on your board, then I'm good. I'm going to write you a check. They didn't go check with that individual, or they assumed that that other individual did due diligence, looked at it, investigated it. Same thing with innovation consultants. Just because they claim that they've done work for 3M or IDEO or Apple or whoever, great. Give me names and numbers. I'm calling. I want to see that actual work. Show me your portfolio. I want to validate it with your clients. That's a fair question. That's a fair request. So who they've been hired? Have they done several projects, or have they just done one? If they've done one and done, okay, you can still look at it, still consider it as part of the credibility for this consultant that you're looking to hire. But if they've done multiple projects with gaps in between, they did one, wait 6 months later, they did another one, completely different, that's good. That tells you the client liked the work. Again, always call and validate. And the other thing is, can you call all the clients? Can you go through and do a true reference check? And I'm amazed at how few organizations do any kind of a reference check for employees, any kind of consultants, much less innovation consultants. And in my case, for innovation consultants, it's a must. It is something that you should, not only should, but must do. Because an innovation consultant can actually cause you harm, can cause you problems, can dissuade senior management from investing in innovation, can turn off your entire organization. If you choose the wrong innovation consultant, the long-term ramifications to your organization, but more importantly, if you brought that consultant in, your credibility as an innovation leader. So do your checks. Always do your reference checks. And with that, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we'll look at question number 3. Welcome back to Innovations. Let's pick up where we left off with question number 3. Again, this is the third of 4 questions you should ask innovation consultants before you consider hiring them. And that is, what is it about this innovation consultant that is attracting the following? So they've passed some level of validation for question number one. They've got some credibility. They've actually done this. They're known as innovators. They're not known just as consultants who know innovation. They're innovators first, right? And they've done engagements with some interesting clients. So the question you need to ask yourself is what about this innovation consultant that's attracting this following? If a consultant comes in and says, oh, I did 4 projects for IDEO, and I did 2 projects at Mayo Clinic, and I've been up at 3M, and I've helped them do 2 rounds of innovations into a new product category, and I went over to Corning, and I helped Corning, right? What is it about this innovation consultant that's attracting this following? Is there something really here, or are they just really good at talking, right? Have they, what is it that they've actually doing that you need to evaluate it? This is kind of this consultant's approach, and does it work for your organization? This is what you're trying to figure out with this question. So let's dig into this a little bit more. Well, one is the number of clients they've done work for. Not just in the last question we talked about, have they done multiple engagements for specific clients? In this case, number of clients. Have they done 100 clients, 500 clients, 1,000 clients, a couple thousand clients, right? And can they document that? And can they prove that, right? In the case, just as an example, in the case of the FIRE framework, now that's really not a consulting, but that's organizations who use the FIRE framework that I've developed, that I write about in my book, that's freely available. We've talked about it we're in season 16, so there's 15 years of content that people can go back and pull out to learn how to use the FIRE framework. Today, there's like 2,000, 2,500 organizations that use the FIRE framework. That would be an example, right? How many people are using kind of the secret sauce that this consultant is claiming to have that delivers some form of unique value? Second is are they willing to share the details of their approach? Are they really good with a couple of PowerPoints, but to get to the secret sauce, you got to sign the big contract, right? I'm a big believer of a pay it forward, right? I'm a big believer of giving it away. Now, I'm unique. I'm in a different financial position than most everybody listening to this show, right? I've been blessed with some phenomenal success. I've taken a startup that I did and did an IPO and had, huge success from that. I had a very successful career at Mayo. I have a very exciting, fun job today. That I'm a full-time CEO someplace that does innovation work, but we do it for an industry, right? So I'm unique. I'm not out there as a consultant trying to make a living as a consultant. So don't try to hold me up as the compare for every consultant you're trying to hire, right? But in my case, the FIRE framework, easy to understand. You can read about it, in my book. If you don't want to buy the book, go to beyondtheobvious.com. 100% of every page that is in the book is over there at beyondtheobvious.com. You can read about it. You can use the search bar. You can search for things. And you can get all that available to you. And if it works for your organization, go ahead, great. Is the consultant you're looking to engage with, are they willing to share the details of their approach? Because not every approach will work for every organization. Your organization is unique. How you think, how your leadership communicates, how decisions are made, how funding is done, how budgets are set, how your CFO thinks about approving projects that you need to get some incremental, funding for whatever. However your organization operates, you are unique. You need to make sure you understand the approach from an innovation consultant and that it will work with your organization. Because trust me, if you hire the consultant because this is a really great consultant, but their approach is something that just doesn't quite mesh with your group, you've just set yourself up for failure. A lot of organizations hire consultants thinking that the consultant's going to come in with a, set defined process and that you can take that, apply it, and you're done and you're off to the races. That's not the case. In fact, I tell the story. There's a chapter in my book with Kroger. The person leading up the innovation effort at Kroger, longtime listener to the podcast, he reaches out to me and goes, "Hey, is it okay? Can we use the stuff that you've shared in the podcast? We want to use it inside of Kroger." And I'm like, "Fine, but you need to adapt and you need to adopt, meaning you need to transform it so it works for your organization." He's like, "No, I think it'll work." He tried to just take exactly what is the approach that I was using at that time at HP, tried to apply it to Kroger. It didn't go well. A little bit of work of adapting it, tweaking it, changing the language around it, huge success. In fact, the innovation team at Kroger I would hold up as as an example of an organization that has been quite successful with its innovation efforts. It's won Retail Tech Company of the Year. I don't know, I've lost track of how many years now that they've done that. So that's an example of where they took an approach that they thought would work, but you still have to adapt it. And then the other thing is when they share those details, is there something special compared to other consultants? As I share many times on this show here, go out and research like crazy. Look at other consultants that are out there. Look at what other organizations are do and steal from the best. Steal from the best. Take a little bit from person A, a little bit from person B, a little bit from person C, and create something that works for you, that works for your organization. You can be successful. You and your organization, your team can be highly, highly successful. The fact that you're listening to the show, and I'm assuming that you're listening to the show today and it's not your first time, that you've been listening for a while, which means that tells me that you are looking to lift up your own area of expertise, to learn and to adapt that to what it is you're trying to do, whether you're an entrepreneur starting a new company or you are an innovation leader within an organization and you're trying to bring some level of expertise in, right? Go look at what others are doing. How is this consultant's work something special? Do they have some insight that matches your industry or matches your organization or whatever it is? Because that could be a big plus. You find a consultant that's just got a really nice mesh with the way you think and your leadership thinks. That could be a pretty match. At the same time, you bring in a consultant that's not going to be a mesh, then it's an oil and water thing, and you're going to have some big problems. So again, in this case, you're looking at these consultants to say, how many clients have they been involved with? Are they willingness to share with you the details of their approach? And when you look at it, is there something special compared to others? And look, there are 1,000 different approaches to innovation. There's no magic sauce. If a consultant comes to you and says, "I have the magic approach, follow my 10 steps and magic happens," run. Turn around and run away, because there's no such thing. So, and look, there's even some big 6 consulting firms that I've been getting calls about. They come in, they're charging $2-3 million to come in and define an innovation process. They come in, they drop off like 8 feet of binders and digital PDFs and etc. And then they go by and they walk out the door, and they follow this whole process and magic happens, and it's bogus. It's absolutely bogus. People are wasting a lot of money out there hiring consultants and get nothing at the end, and they're frustrated. So here is, again, question 3. We've got one more question that we're going to go through for the 4 questions you should ask an innovation consultant before you hire them. So don't go anywhere. You want to find out what question number 4 is, and we'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. This week's show, we're talking about the challenges of finding an innovation consultant that works with your organization. I started today's show off on the premise that 80% of innovation consultants are not worth the money. They are not. So, we've covered three of the questions that you should ask consultants before you hire them. Now, let's jump in to question number 4. Question number 4 is can you adapt and adopt the approach from the innovation consultant? The last question was focusing on what is unique about their approach. What is it that they're doing that's attracting this following? In this case, can you adapt and adopt? And you would not believe how hard this is. One is does their approach lend itself to be easily adapted and adopted? And two, are you even allowed to adapt it and to adopt it? So there's only 2 points I want to make on this. One is if you're going to hire an innovation consultant and they're bringing an approach to the table, do you get granted the rights to use their approach within your organization? Or are you paying simply for a training class? And when you get the first 10 trained and you want the next 10 trained, you got to bring them back again, and you got to bring them back again, right? So they get the hooks into you, and then you constantly have to bring them back in order to get the rest of your organization. Or can you take their training materials and yeah, you might have to pay some more for it, but can you take their training materials, customize it to you, and then use it? Maybe you pay a little royalty. Some consultants will do that. But some consultants are saying, nope, you cannot adapt and adopt it. This is a standard course. If you want us to come in, we will teach this course multiple times across your organization. You got to really think long and hard, because if you're trying to lift the innovation skill within your team and within your organization, you really have to think about how do you get that training? How do you get that familiarity across the entire organization? The other is are they willing to adapt it to your organization, to your culture, to your approach, even your language? Right? As I gave in the last segment, we talked a little bit about Kroger. What Kroger did that I thought was just absolutely brilliant is they took the language in the FIRE framework and used Kroger words. Kroger has its own approach to how does it manage projects and phases and testing cycles and when they want to test something out. They used their language, because now when the staff and leadership heard about an innovation project and the project was described, that was using Kroger terminology, everybody in the organization goes, oh, I know what that word means. Oh, I know what that phase means. Oh, I know what that budget item means because it's using Kroger language. So, one, you need to make sure that you're granted the rights to use the approach within your organization. And then two, is the consultant willing to adapt to your organization's culture, approach, and language? Absolutely critical. So again, let's walk through. Here are the 4 questions you should ask before hiring an innovation consultant. Is this innovation consultant a proven innovator? Back to my analogy for today's show, you're not going to hire someone to teach you how to drive who's never driven a car. Do not hire an innovation consultant who's never innovated. They can't point to an award-winning product, being a chief innovation officer at a major company like Procter and Gamble or Kroger, or, Louisville Health or Mayo Clinic or IDEA, right? They got to have some credibility too. Who else have they been hired by? Who else is hiring them, right? Are they the clients that have found them to be valuable? That's a little bit of that credibility check. 3, what is it about their innovation consultant that's attracting this following? What's unique about that approach? And then 4, can I adapt and adopt that approach from that innovation consultant? Can I actually bring it in, and can I modify it, and can I adopt it? And by adopting it is can I get my entire organization on board, right? 4 questions you should ask before hiring an innovation consultant. And if you're out there looking for an innovation consultant and you're not quite sure what, you're heading down the right path, just drop me an email, phil@killerinnovations.com. I respond to those. Or you can hop over to the innovators.community. It's where I hang out. You can send me a direct message over there. So you just go to the innovators.community. It's free, there's no charge. It's where listeners of the show hang out, it's where other innovators hang out. You want to hop on over there, you can ask me a question, you can post a generic question, and everybody in the community will give you advice on consultants that they would recommend, consultants they've used, etc. So, um, this is a little bit of the pitch. If you're interested in the FIRE framework and everything we talk about here at the show, you can take a disruptive ideation workshop. The disruptive ideation workshop is the FIRE framework. It's used by 2,500 companies around the world. Once you've taken the workshop, you can take it, use it, modify it, teach it. It's so simple. You can use it throughout your organization. It's what the U.S. Marine Corps has done. Brother Mobile Printing, most recently, we did a workshop for them. We've done a bunch. What's unique about this is this course is taught by the Innovators Network. I have granted them a license to all of my books, all of my workshop materials, etc. Every person that's an instructor in the Innovators Network has and is an innovation leader. They've got a full-time job. They're doing innovation at a major organization, and they do these workshops on the side to help other organizations step up their innovation game. They're not consultants. These are chief innovation officers and are innovation leaders doing workshops as a way to share their expertise. So they've got a full-time gig doing innovation, but they want to help and share that expertise. So that's the unique piece there. You have all the information on how to get a hold of me. If you want to stay connected, text the word innovation to 44222 or send a message to innovation@killerinnovations.com. As I said, my email address is phil@killerinnovations.com. Show notes are over at killerinnovations.com. You've got over on the website, there's 15 years of content. We are in season 16. We will start season 17 in March of next year. So don't go anywhere. Lots of content. Thanks for your time. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.